Welcome everybody. Do you want the playbook to know exactly what to do when imposter syndrome sets in? When you start to feel like, I don't know, like a fraud or anything like that? Because I don't know if you're like me, as a parent, as an entrepreneur, even when I was back in my corporate life, in that sea of cubicles, like feeling that unqualified or underprepared, like maybe you're just one question away from being like found out, that people are going to discover that thing about you. There's a good chance you're standing like at the doorway of really stepping into the person that you could become, the person who can make the greater impact, living the life you want to live with more fulfillment, happiness, joy, and everything else that comes along with that. Being able to show up as your most authentic self using your gifts, your superpowers, and everything in between. You are about at that doorway, and the reason why you're starting to feel this is because that imposter syndrome is setting in. It's telling you that you're closer than you think. Imposter syndrome, it doesn't show up when you're playing small. It shows up the moment that you start growing and stretching and really stepping into who you authentically are versus like the person you've been performing as for so long. And maybe that's you right now. Maybe you're a parent who's just trying to hold everything together and you're just quietly wondering like if you're doing any of it right. Always remembering the moments where you slipped, or rarely noticing the ways that you've actually shown up in the best ways for your family. Or maybe you're an entrepreneur who keeps second guessing every decision, comparing your like messy behind the scenes reality to someone else's highlight reel, hoping that no one notices how much you're actually just winging it and trying to figure it out. Surprise, I've worked with a lot of small business owners and entrepreneurs over the years. We're all winging it. No one knows what they're doing. We're all figuring it out as we go. Or I don't know, maybe you're just an employee who keeps shrinking in meetings, or convince someone else is more qualified than you. You're passing on opportunities because like you don't feel like you check every single box that's there. Now, if any of that like resonates with you, you may sound a little different, but if it kind of hits home, close to home, then it's okay. Take a breath. Like this isn't a sign that you're not doing enough or that you're not ready. It's a sign that you're growing and that you're ready to step into this new awesome version of you, because here's the thing. You are the only person with your combination of gifts, superpowers, and experiences. And I want you to understand that, because there are people out there who you are the only person who can make the impact in their lives that they need right now, because they need your gifts and your superpowers in their life. They need it delivered from somebody who's only been through the ups, the downs, the struggles, the failures that you have. They're waiting for it. So the second you start to realize that and you can step into who it is you're meant to be past imposter syndrome, you can truly start making more of an impact, creating value for people, having deeper, more meaningful relationships, opening up new opportunities to you from all sorts of places. The universe has a way of paying people back who do these things. Now, imposter syndrome, it's once again, it's often just the emotional static that shows up when your gifts are trying to break out of the old version of you. Like there's that friction between like who you've been, the programming you have and everything, and who you're becoming. It's not that you're unqualified. You're just unfamiliar with seeing yourself in your full capacity. And I get it. Like I said, I've been there myself. I'm a parent. I'm an entrepreneur. I've been in that sea of cubicles for years. I know that anytime someone trusted me with responsibility, I would like I asked, they'd come to me and ask for help or anything like that. My first thought was like, man, if they only knew how much I'm just guessing, I'm just figuring things out as I go. But what changed, like everything for me, wasn't eliminating that feeling, because imposter syndrome, it does not go away. It was learning like what to do when it shows up. I've walked into rooms with some of the most amazing people at mastermind events and conferences that I look around and I'm like, man, I am not in the right room. And had the host of the event say, hey, who in this room has experienced imposter syndrome since being here? And everyone, the big names, the small names, everyone in between, like everyone raised their hands. Everyone experiences imposter syndrome. It will not go away. But this is going to be the playbook, how to actually like navigate through it when it shows up, no matter what stage of life you're in. That's what we want to talk about today. Now, I usually say at the top of my video, totally forgot to, welcome to the GIVER Method channel. If you're new here, welcome. We like having you. My name is Jake Talbert. I'm the founder and author of the GIVER Method. If you're back for another video, welcome back. Good to see you. You know that I always like to plug everything we're talking about today is going to be grounded in my book, The GIVER Method. There's a link in the description where you can go get it. It's on sale on Amazon right now. So either pause the video, go to Amazon and look up The GIVER Method by Jake Talbert, buy a copy for yourself, buy a copy for someone else who needs it, or use the link in the description to go get yourself a copy. It is one of the things that will change your life more than anything else. You could have some of the best holidays you've ever had. You can make 2026 the best year of your life. And it's meant for people like you and me. It's meant for the parents and entrepreneurs and the people who can't just burn everything down and start over. So all the action items, exercises, worksheets, stories, everything is grounded in the reality of who you are. I've walked that same path, and so it helps guide you through that. It's kind of your playbook for that, for all of these things. So we're only diving into a small portion of that today with imposter syndrome. So feel free to grab yourself a copy. Like I said, the link is in the description. Go get it on Amazon. It's there. It's available for you. You know, I want to help you to move through imposter syndrome with more clarity and more consistency, not just waiting for confidence, not waiting for permission to take action, just learning like the actual plays in the playbook that are going to help you like keep moving forward when self-doubt gets loud. Once again, if you want to explore anything deeper on that, then you can either go to thegivermethod.com, sign up for our newsletter list, take the survival mode assessment, get the Giver roadmap, any of our free resources. You can also, like I said, go to Amazon, get yourself a copy of the Giver method, right? If you want like one-on-one support, coaching, help walking you through this type of stuff, check out the link down below about the one-on-one coaching program. It might make sense for you to book a call. And then if you have any sort of a podcast team, event, stage, audience that needs to hear a message like this around imposter syndrome or discovering their gifts and superpowers and stepping into who it is they're meant to be, then let's talk about how we could bring it to them. There's a link down below about speaking and podcasting you can check out. And of course, make sure you do all the YouTube things, like the video, subscribe to the channel, ring that bell for notifications, and comment your thoughts along the way. All right, let's get going now. We want to go right into this playbook for imposter syndrome and exactly how you can start to navigate through it more effectively, because it's going to keep coming up from time to time. So the first play that I want you to focus on from this imposter syndrome playbook is going to be the who can I serve redirect. Now this is moving the focus from you evaluating yourself to more contribution, because when imposter syndrome shows up, most people get pulled right into their heads without even realizing it, and their focus it totally collapses inward, and we start we're really good at replaying all of the flaws that you think that you have, or every reason that someone else might be more qualified, and because it's almost impossible for to see the people right in front of you who actually need what you bring to the table, because you're just so caught up in your head. You can't they're standing there oh my gosh, I could probably change their life if I used my gift of this to help them, but I'm so caught up in all the negative thoughts and the playing back the bad game film of the failure I had, of the time I messed up. Who am I to help this person in that sort of a way? It's no, they're right in front of you. They're waiting. Once again, you're the only person with your combination of gifts, superpowers, and experiences, and they're waiting for you to show up in that way, putting everything, off to the side of it from imposter syndrome. I mean, it's wild how fast we get caught up in our heads. Your shoulders tighten and your voice starts to drop. You second guess things that you normally just say with pure confidence in every sort of way. Suddenly, the whole moment becomes about being in this performance mode rather than about impact. And so here's the shift. Instead of asking, am I good enough? That question is never going to take you anywhere. Ask instead, who needs me right now? And that question quietly pulls it out of that self-judgment and back into purpose, back into outward, making an impact. You stop trying to prove your worth and you just start moving using your gifts and your superpowers. So what I want you to do is the first thing is the first step to do this is you have to notice when you're shrinking. The moment that you feel yourself spiraling in comparison or self-doubt or replaying every possible mistake, all right, hold on, I'm in my head. Just call it out. That awareness breaks the autopilot so much. Then ask the redirection question, who's the one person that I can help in the next hour with one of my natural gifts, with one of my superpowers, and keep it specific. Just one person with one gift. That's it. Coworker stuck on something your brain solves quickly. The friend who could use an encouraging moment, the teammate who needs some clarity, your kid who maybe needs just simple presence, or someone who could benefit from information that you already know. The question, it's going to pull you towards the contribution instead of collapsing in on yourself. And then step 3, give without waiting. This is the part that matters most. Don't wait to be asked. Don't pause and get permission. Don't judge whether your support is the right support or perfect for what they need. Just give. Offer the clarity, send the message, share that insight, listen to your kid, help that person know how you can help them, right? Once you do that, it's almost impossible to stay stuck in self-doubt, because now your brain is too busy focusing outward. The daily, if you want to think about this, there's a daily practice you could do that changes everything. Really, if you just go add on your calendar, add a 15-minute service appointment to your day. And it's an intentional block where your only goal is to go find one person that you can serve with one of your gifts. And if you track that for a week, and you're going to notice how you feel before you did it and after. Start seeing those patterns, the anxiety drops, confidence rises, your gifts feel more natural, not because your fear disappears. Once again, fear, imposter syndrome don't go away, but it's because your attention is finally pointed in the right direction. Because like I said, imposter syndrome, it keeps you stuck in that self-focus. Service shifts you back to impact. It's not, am I good enough? That's stuck. It's who can I serve? That gives me movement. When you finally use your gifts to help someone, even in the smallest way, you create the real proof that your presence matters. You build that confidence. And that's really the heartbeat of what like the concepts within the Giver method are all about, channeling your gifts for impact and not testing your worthiness. So this like one redirection that you do, like change your thoughts with one person, one gift for maybe one moment, like it rewires your entire like imposter spiral. It reminds you that you're here to serve, not just to perform. Every time that you act on it, man, that's that clarity that self-judgment can never like take from you. And so the second thing I want you to focus on, I call it the receipt file. And I talk a lot about this type of stuff in a lot of our topics that we cover throughout all of our YouTube videos. Feel free to check out the other ones once this one's done, because there's probably other topics that are going to hit home specifically for you. But the second one, the receipt file, like building this evidence log when your brain starts lying to you. Because imposter syndrome, it's really sneaky, right? Like most of the time, like you're not fighting the truth, you're fighting your brain's filing system. It's programming, how it believes it should act. Your mind is wired to remember the moments that felt risky and embarrassing and painful. Like that helped our ancestors stay alive and not get eaten by big cats and bears and things like that. But today it just means that your brain has this like crystal clear highlight reel of the awkward comment you made, every project that didn't land, every time someone didn't react the way you had hoped. And your wins, the times that you actually showed up and you helped someone, you solved that problem, you brought calm to chaos, whatever it is. Like those moments usually don't get the same like shelf space in your brain because they fade into the background unless you grab them and save them somewhere. That's where this play comes to life. This evidence log is basically, it's like your external memory system for truth. The receipts file, like when imposter syndrome starts to whisper, like, you're not going to get this right, you can't really help anyone, who are you to do this, you're not qualified. Like, once again, you don't have to argue with it. You just pull out the log and say, well, cool story, bro, but here's the actual receipts, here's the actual things I've done. Once again, it's not about pumping yourself up with any sort of hype, it's about keeping the simple record of what actually happened and the ways you created the value, supported people, used your gifts in real life, because when you start to do that, you actually notice it more. So here's the first thing I want you to do. Step one. You're going to create your evidence log. You're going to open up your phone, pull up the note app, and you're going to a doc on the computer, a small notebook, whatever. And it's going to be like, cool, name it. Like this is the evidence log or the proof of value, my impact receipts, my wins file, whatever. Like the name doesn't matter. What matters is that you can pull it up quickly in those moments when your brain starts like trash talking you. And then step two, you got to capture like 3 daily contributions. Like every evening, just before you're about to crash at night, jot down 3 things you did that were helpful, like competent or meaningful in some way. And they don't have to be big or huge. Like, in fact, some of the best ones are really, really small. You helped a coworker untangle an issue they were stuck on. You stayed calm and present when your kid was overwhelmed or in meltdown. You explained the confusing topic to someone that finally got it. You checked in on someone who looked off and gave them space to talk. Maybe you cleaned up a mess at home so that tomorrow feels lighter. Like, once again, if it made someone else's life easier, cleaner, calmer, simpler, or more hopeful, it counts, even if the smallest way possible. And then step 3, capture the impact, not just the activity. Like this is like where it stops being a to-do list and it becomes real evidence. You don't just write what you did, you write like the difference it made. Instead of like, hey, I helped on a project, it's like, hey, I helped a teammate troubleshoot their project. And they told me like it saved them 2 hours that made them feel ready for their meeting. Instead of like, hey, I listened to my kid, it's like, hey, I listened to my teenager vent about his friend's situation. Like I didn't jump in and fix it. And they said, thanks for listening. That actually helped. Like it made such a difference to them. Instead of like, hey, I sent this resource to a client. It's like, I sent that resource to a client. They replied that this is exactly what they needed. And that it saved them so much time. Once again, you're not tracking just the actions, it's the impact that matters. That's the part that imposter syndrome like conveniently is going to ignore. And then step 4 is like add like a weekly win and like your impact quotes. Like once a week, like so let's say, I don't know, Sunday, for example, you scan your entries from it and you look for the one, like what's the big weekly win? Like something like, hey, this week I led through a tough conversation and both people walked away, feeling heard. This week, my presentation finally clicked for my team and they left with clarity. This week, I helped 3 different people with their problem, whatever. Like then in another section of the log, collect the exact words that people said when they said thank you, they acknowledged you, anything. And this becomes like your impact quote. Things like, you're the lifesaver. I didn't know, what I would have done without your help. Hey, you're the only one who really listens. Hey, your insight, like it changed how I see this. When your brain sees these things, like it's not just like you don't make a difference. Like it starts telling you those sort of things. Like you're not guessing, you're reading the real words of how it actually made a difference for people. And then step 5 is you use it when doubt hits. So the next time that you walk into a meeting, you hit publish, you need to have a hard conversation, or do anything that wakes up that imposter syndrome, like who you think you are, voice. Like, open the evidence log, read through the last couple days, maybe the last couple weeks, slowly let it land. These are real moments. This has actually happened. This is who I am when I showed up. Most people who do this, if you do it for 30 days, end up with like 60 to 90 entries. That's 60 to 90 moments of proof that your gifts create impact. And it's hard for imposter syndrome to win the debate against a full page of receipts written like by you in real time. Once again, our brain is it's wired to have a bias towards what went wrong. This log is going to be a record of what went right. You don't just capture impact, if you don't do that. Imposter syndrome always has a louder case, and so you're just making the case against it. Once again, we're not faking confidence. We're just building confidence on top of real proof. And over time, the story quietly shifts from like, I never get it right, to like, hey, I showed up for what mattered. I have the receipts to prove it. That's the whole point of this play. It's like you just stop letting your feelings be the only evidence. You start letting like your life speak truth into what actually happened. And then that takes us to the third play, which is the act before you're ready play. You got to act before you're ready to move. Like this building confidence through the reps, not overthinking things. Because one of the biggest traps that imposter syndrome actually does is the belief that confidence is supposed to show up first. Like I need to have the confidence, then I can take some action. Most people just sit around waiting for that moment to feel certain or calm or prepared, qualified, polished, whatever that looks like. But like that moment, it rarely comes. Because confidence doesn't come from thinking or planning or rehearsing in your head 900 times what exactly you're going to do. Confidence comes from the reps, from action, from doing the thing, whatever that thing is, especially when you don't feel ready. That's what this play is all about. It's about taking one small imperfect step before your mind says, like, it's time, we can do this. Because your nervous system learns through experience, not imagination. That's why athletes train on a field, not in their heads. Why musicians practice scales, not theory worksheets. You don't build confidence by waiting, you build it by moving. So here's what I want you to do. The first step in this is you pick an area where imposter syndrome hits hardest for you. Write down like the specific place that you feel like the most hesitation right now. Maybe it's speaking up in meetings. Maybe it's posting content online. Maybe having hard conversations you've been avoiding. Charging more for your work. Applying for that role that you're scared you're underqualified for. Sharing ideas with people that you look up to. Whatever it is, name it clearly. Imposter syndrome loses power when it's no longer vague. It's like, this is what it is. Here's when it shows up for me and what it feels like. And then step 2, shrink like whatever the action is until it almost feels too small, like silly small. Most people, like they don't move because that first step they imagine is way too big. And so what you do is just going to reduce it until it feels doable. You cut that action in half and then in half again and again until like it feels right. You keep doing it until it feels, like I said, I would say it's like embarrassingly small, but still a step forward. So here's some ideas. Here's some examples of what that could look like. If you have a hard time speaking up in meetings, the big action would be like giving a presentation. The smaller one is like sharing an idea. The smaller than that is like, I'm going to ask a question. And like the tiny step is like, hey, I'm going to type one thought into the chat. If the thing you're struggling with is posting content, it's like, well, recording a really polished video, that's my big action. The smaller thing is like writing a post. The smaller that is like sharing someone else's post with your take. And finally, like the tiny step is like leaving one thought in a comment. Like you're just taking some sort of an action. Not that that's where you're always going to stay. You're going to move forward past that. If you struggle with hard conversations, difficult conversations, the big thing is like sitting down and talking through everything. Well, smaller of that is like, hey, can I bring up this topic gently? The smaller of that would be like, hey, can I say one thing that I've been avoiding? And then the tiniest step would be like, write down what I want to say. Once again, all of these things, it's not about being impressive. It's just about building movement. And you just build and you grow step by step into whatever that next stage would be. And then step 3, you take the action before noon tomorrow. Not next week, not when you calm down or things feel ready, not after you get more sleep or clarity or courage. Like, no, tomorrow before noon, that's it. That deadline keeps you from slipping back into the I'll do it later when I actually feel ready. Because you won't feel ready, that's the point. The win is taking action, not taking it perfectly, just doing something about it. And then step 4 is notice like what happens immediately after. Is there a shift after? Give yourself 60 seconds check-in. Like, okay, well, did you survive the thing? Weird, you did. Was it as bad as you imagined? What did you learn about yourself? How does your body feel now that you've done it? Most people realize like, oh man, that wasn't as like catastrophic or crazy as my brain was making it out to be. That moment is where confidence begins. And then step 5, build your rep count. The magic isn't done because you did it once. It's in the repetition. So do the same tiny action again tomorrow, or maybe slightly bigger version, and then again, and then again. Just keep going through that. If you chat that one thought into a chat, do it again. If you wrote down one thing you want to say tomorrow, then say it out loud to yourself. You know, if you commented on a post, write the little bit longer one next time. Whatever, like each rep is a vote towards your identity that, hey, I'm someone who can move through my nervousness. I'm someone who can do things imperfectly instead of waiting to feel ready. I'm someone who can handle some discomfort. And you know, if you want to make it fun, create a courage count, you know, a simple tally where like you mark every single rep, and by the end of the month, like look for those like 20, 30, 40 reps staring back at you, that like the confidence that you've been building in real time. Because once again, confidence, it isn't built just in your head, it's built through the action. Your nervous system learns through experience, not some sort of wishful thinking. You know, when you pick one area where fear has been running the show and shrink the action into something so tiny and do it before noon, and then repeat it often, you're teaching your body a new truth. Like, hey, I can do hard things without waiting for permission, you know, from my fear. And the reps continue to add truth to it. That's how your confidence grows, not from eliminating fear. Once again, the fear imposter syndrome, it's going to come back. It does. But it's from proving that you can move even when fear is in the room. And the fourth play, you know, I call it the borrowed belief backup. So this is when you need to let someone else hold your confidence when you can't. Like, there are seasons where your own belief in yourself isn't strong enough to carry you. You look in the mirror, you see every flaw, every possible failure, every reason that you might not be the right person for whatever that is. And that's the exact same time, like, there are people in your life like who see a totally different picture of you. They see your patterns, they see your growth, they see your strengths. You know, they see what's there, like, you know, the things that you feel like are no big deal. And so it's about like letting their like vision help you, like when you're foggy about things. You know, borrowing a belief isn't a weakness, it's wisdom. You know, ask almost anyone doing meaningful work and they'll tell you, you know, about at least one person who believed in them when they didn't believe in themselves. A spouse, a mentor, a teacher, a friend, whatever, kept saying like, no, this is who you are. You've built this, keep going. That's this borrowed belief backup is simply like you being intentional with that. Instead of waiting for some random encouragement, ask for a specific truth from someone who you know and will tell it to you straight. When imposter syndrome is loud, you can pull their words back up and let their perspective like steady you until your own belief catches up. You know, so here's what I want you to do. Like this week, you're going to reach out to a few people, like, you know, you're going to reach out to a couple people on purpose and ask one clear question, right? So the first thing, like, choose the belief that you're going to, you know, your belief sources. Like, think of those 2 or 3 people. Like, okay, who are the people that I know in real life, not just online? They know who I am. You know, have seen you show up and create real value. You maybe tend to reflect your strengths back to you, or actually, you know, you trust to be honest and be real with you. Like, they're going to tell you what that is. It could be a spouse or partner. It could be a friend, a mentor, teammate, boss, even someone, you know, you lead who has felt the impact of your gifts. Don't pick people who are just saying nice things to avoid conflict. Pick the ones who will tell you the truth, even if it's uncomfortable. Their words carry weight because, like, you know they're not going to sugarcoat things. And then you're going to ask one specific question. You're going to reach out to each one of these people individually and ask, like, hey, I'm working on seeing my natural strengths more clearly, especially when self-doubt kicks in. You know, what's one gift or capability you've seen in me that, you know, you think I don't give enough credit to? You know, I really value your perspective on this. And that's it. It's short, it's clear, it's aligned to the work that you're doing for yourself. You're not asking them to hype you up. You're just asking them to report on what they've actually seen. And then step 3, you have to receive it without arguing. You just listen. When they answer, your job is to receive. You don't downplay the thing. You know, you're going to want to say like, oh, like, well, that's not special. Anyone could do that. You know, I was just being kind, whatever. Like, don't do those things. Just say, hey, thank you. That means a lot to me. Write down their exact words of what they said, word for word. Their language matters. The details matter. You're collecting the real observations, not the fluffy compliments. And then you create the, like, what others see notes that you can go to on your phone. You know, what do other people see? What are the beliefs I can borrow? How they see me, and then copy what they said. You know, now you've got this mini archive of how people like who love you and work with you actually experience you. And then use your archive when doubt sets in. You just pull that up. It's, once again, it's hard to argue with that when it happens. Maybe you need to choose a belief anchor. Like, if you take this a little bit deeper, ask those people like to be a belief anchor for you. You know, you could say something like, hey, would you be open to being someone I can like text on days where self-doubt is really loud? You know, not all the time, maybe just once in a while, just to remind me of what you see in me that maybe I can't see at that point. Most people are honored when you ask them that. And then when you spiral, you just have a simple message like, hey, I'm having a rough day with self-doubt. Can you remind me like what you told me about my whatever gift they mention, and their response is going to be like grounded and specific. It's going to be amazing. That one reminder can pull you out of the mental tailspin in seconds. Like there are days your own belief like is too weak to stand on. It doesn't mean that you're broken. It means you're human. And so this is where this borrowed belief practice like is the bridge for those sort of days. Once again, we're not faking confidence. We're just borrowing it from people who've actually watched you like be the person you're maybe afraid you're not. And over time, like you keep reading those words, and living your life, something quiet, like, but really important happens. The inner picture of yourself starts to match the version that they've seen all along. Like that's the win of this play. Your borrowed belief becomes your own belief over time. And then that takes us to the fifth and final play. Okay, this is the growth signal shift. Like when, like I don't belong here isn't a warning. Like knowing that it's the evidence that you're rising. Because one of the biggest misconceptions, misinterpretations people make about imposter syndrome is assuming that feeling, that discomfort is they're in the wrong room. Fear shows up, like self-doubt hits, and suddenly the story becomes like, hey, man, I messed up. I shouldn't be here. I'm in the deep end when I shouldn't be. But the truth that most people never consider is like, you only feel imposter syndrome when you're stretching, when you're leveling up, when you're stepping into something that your old identity hasn't caught up with yet. You never feel imposter syndrome in your comfort zone. You feel numb. You feel stuck. You feel like you're going through the motions in that case. So like this play is about reframing the discomfort instead of treating it like a red flag. You start asking different questions, the question that helps you to see like what's actually happening beneath all of the doubt. So the first thing is you have to catch the old pattern. Like you have to interrupt that. But the moment that imposter syndrome, like that familiar feeling starts to come in, the you don't belong here, or someone's going to figure you out or whatever, like just pause and notice it. Your brain like is assuming discomfort is danger. Like we're about to change that. Just catching it can do so many things for you. And then you're going to replace it. Like you're going to ask the question, like, why do I feel like I don't belong here? Like, like what new level am I stepping into that, my old self-image hasn't caught up with yet? Who am I stepping into that I just, my brain doesn't feel like I'm ready for? And this flips the whole meaning of the moment. Write down like somewhere like you actually can see it. Put it on your phone. Make a lock screen. Like repeat things until these things become automatic. Like, okay, well, how can I show up in this way? What level am I showing up as? How am I showing up differently here? Answer the questions honestly. Like new level comes when you stretch. Your new identity, something that's different. You're stepping into leadership. It could be like, hey, I used to see myself as an individual contributor. My brain hasn't updated to be a person who leads. Hey, my old identity is was grateful for any client, and this is the first time like I'm owning the true value of my work. Hey, I was the behind the scenes person. Now people like they listen to me, and gosh, that's new territory, for my identity. My self-image has been like the parent stuck with little ones. And now I'm learning this whole new phase of life. Once again, the discomfort isn't incompetence. It's your identity updating. Acknowledge like transition phases. Like you say that, hey, this feels uncomfortable because I'm growing. My brain is updating. Like there's nothing wrong with me. I'm just stretching. Once again, you name it, you take the edge off of it. And then you let yourself recalibrate. Instead of trying to get rid of the feeling, you just allow it. Hey, my old operating systems got me here. And the new one's still loading in, and like I'm in that update window. It's okay. That's where I'm at. But you don't turn off your computer mid-update. You let the process finish. That's what you're doing here. You're giving your identity time to sync with your reality. And then maybe you look at it from like a growth timeline. You grab a note and you look like, hey, 5 years ago, what made me feel unqualified? 3 years ago, what felt out of reach? A year ago, what made me feel nervous I would attempt? And look at your life today, and you'll discover something wild, like the things that maybe were terrifying before now become just part of who you are. You just look at those sort of things. Like these patterns are proof. Your brain was simply just forgotten how far you've come. That's what this growth timeline is going to be about. Most people, like, they treat imposter syndrome like it's a stop sign, but it's not a warning. It's truly a signal. It's the sign that you're growing, you're leveling up, like your old programming is changing. And when you reframe the discomfort as just, hey, that's a natural part of evolving, like all these other feelings go away. You stop retreating, you stop shrinking, you stop thinking something's wrong, and you just start recognizing like, hey, this means I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. Like, yeah, this is a stretch zone. Like, it's a place where transformation is truly happening. And here's the thing I want you to walk away with. Once again, feeling imposter syndrome, doesn't mean that you're inadequate or unqualified. It just means you're growing. That emotional static that shows up when you're stepping into the version of yourself that you haven't fully recognized. You don't need to fix that feeling. You just need the playbook, the plays that you can run when it shows up. So that's what I want you to do. Pick one play that we walked through today and just start small. Because the moment, like, you take any step, no matter how small it is, like, that feeling, the imposter, the fear, all that like loses grip. And you start proving to yourself, like, I can do this and I'm built for this. Like right now, like just take a deep breath. Think back, like, when did imposter syndrome show up for you this week? And instead of asking, like, what's wrong with me? Like, well, what new level am I stepping into that the old self-image hasn't caught up with yet? And it's amazing how that shift is going to change your whole story. Now, once again, if you want to dive deeper into this, that's where you can go get yourself a copy of the GIVER method. You know, sometimes it's about discovering your gifts and using them with intention, creating real impact, you know, in your relationships, your career, your family, your future. Like I said, go get yourself a copy. It's on sale right now on Amazon. The link is in the description. The GIVER Method by Jake Talbert. You go to thegivermethod.com, get access to some of our free resources like the Survivor Mode assessment or the GIVER Roadmap or our newsletter list. You can also check out like where we've got our one-on-one coaching. If people are looking for a one-on-one resource to really guide them through things, that link's down below. And if you're hosting a podcast, running an event, a stage, an audience, like have some sort of a group that this message would resonate with, then let's talk about how we could bring it to them in a real way. That link is down below as well. And of course, if this resonated with you, hit like, hit subscribe, tap that bell for notifications, and drop a comment telling me which of the plays you're going to choose to start with. Remember, the people making the biggest impact in the world, like they don't wait for confidence. Like they still experience imposter syndrome just like you do. But what they do is they learn how to move forward without the feeling like that they're ready. And eventually their belief catches up with them. You're more ready than you think, and there are people waiting for you to realize that because you are the only person with your combination of gifts, superpowers, and experiences, and so you're the only person who can make an impact in their lives. So it's time to wake up and start stepping into that because they're ready for you. Let's keep the work moving forward. Pick one of those things today. Check out the other videos on the channel. There may be something that hits home for you as well that you have impact for. Maybe get the book, share a copy with somebody else. Hopefully we'll catch you in one of our upcoming videos, and I'll just say hopefully you have a great rest of your day.